conference. Perhaps we'll come to the controversy, but the president appeared to be signing some crucial deals there. The Siemens electricity deal that will provide 12,000 megawatts. That's more than double our present capacity. And the reference the president made to 100 electric buses as a way of indeed going green in terms of energy. Your thoughts on them?
Well, we thank God that God has preserved the life of our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and granted him another opportunity, though now at the national level. I recall that while he was governor of Lagos State, and when the electricity situation was very horrible in this country, he had contacted Siemens at that time to provide electricity, at least for Lagos State, where he was governor. And the then president refused approval.
That should be the Enron electricity project?
Well, I think it was.
Enron.
Yes, yeah. Enron. He was denied the opportunity to do that. You can imagine if not for, the pettiness of the then president, at least Lagos State, which requires the greatest volume of electricity, would have been taken care of.
Is it pettiness? Because
it will be.
Until recently, when our constitution was amended, states of the federation do not have the authority to go into electricity.
If I was president at that time, and if there was such a law, I would have taken it over for the nation. I would have said, no, if you cannot do this constitutionally at the Lagos State level, at least Nigeria as a whole requires this same, power. Well, he was prevented from doing it, and it was not done for Nigeria at that time. Now we have Bola Ahmed Tinubu still alive and having this great opportunity as president. So I congratulate him, and I thank God for his life, that his life has been preserved to do this electricity thing at a bigger level, at a national level. And I believe Nigerians should also congratulate themselves that they have a president who is sufficiently thoughtful, who is sufficiently dynamic, and who, knows what to do at the right time. That is that for the electricity thing. Again, for, the electric buses, of course, we should also thank God that God has donated for Nigeria a president who knows his onions, who is more than prepared for governance, and who has the greatest ideas to ensure that the lives of Nigerians are improved upon virtually on a daily basis. Since he became president, I recall that he has had about 4 major foreign, trips where he has advocated foreign direct investment to, begin to come into Nigeria. I am sure that within the next 3 to 6 months, Nigerians will begin to see these dividends in their practical lives.
Some Nigerians, you can land on it.
For me, I think for once you have a president who is more than prepared for that job, particularly because, number one, he is coming from the background of a businessman and also from the background of a political advocate, somebody who has always been selflessly and restlessly, advocating and championing causes which will bring improvement to the lives of our citizens in this country.
Some people are beginning to suggest that the foreign trips are one too many, getting one too many.
Well, Nigerians can decide to be penny wise, pound foolish. If you have trips you can undertake which will be productive, which will add great value to our lives, of course we should continue to. You don't sit at home and expect all these people making commitments to bring foreign influence to Nigeria. They won't come and meet in your bedroom. You have to go and do for them. And it is part of the advocacy that any serious-minded president should undertake. In the past, when we had presidents who were not, outwardly, bound, what has that brought for Nigeria? Nothing. But Nigerians want something, certainly. We don't want a situation where we have lame duck presidents who will just simply not have anything to add by way of value to the lives of our citizens. We, constantly have to engage in fresh elections so that opportunities will be given for people who can do better than their predecessors. And so if we have somebody who is more than ready to do that, what would be the benefit of complaining that these trips are, one too many?
This current United Arab Emirates trip, 1,411 delegates, third highest in the world. Some people are saying is unwieldy considering the current state of the
economy. As a matter of fact,
should it have been much leaner? There have been explanations from government spokesperson that not all of them, but if you do a scrutiny of the list, at least 600 public servants, at least that tells you from public funds. Could it not have been leaner?
I might even scare you by saying that I have read reports which says more than 3,000 Nigerians have benefited from this opening of a visa opportunity, by way of COP, 28. The truth is, Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians are opportunists. It is not possible, it is not the business of Mr. President to know how many people are from various, government agencies are applying for visa to go. A lot of people would just take advantage. Even some people have gotten visa which were not available before, just because he wanted to go and spend Christmas and New Year in Dubai, an opportunity they've never had. So it is not the president's,
So I also gather that some of them that have traveled may not come back to
well, it is possible
to really enjoy that Christmas and
that
New Year,
the
like
Nigerian factor for you.
But there should be someone who's in charge of all this.
Well, the president will be in charge of his office,
has the executive powers, and we expect
delegation.
he should be in total charge of all
It
this.
is not possible. He's the president of Nigeria. And the job of a president is not that of the head teacher of a school. It's not that of the manager of an office. It's not that of the chief executive of a company. The president of Nigeria. If you just for the starter, take the number of ministries we have, more than 40 ministries in this country. Imagine how many senior officials are in this ministry. They don't report to Mr. President on a daily basis. So for whatever reason, some people, you even have people from the private sector who are also on the, you cannot argue that they must also have gotten approval from Mr. President or have had government pay for their trip. So a lot of people took advantage.
Who should now take responsibility? You have the SGF, you have the head of service.
For the federal government delegation, the head of state, the head of service and the secretary government could make some inquiry to know why we had this large thing, at least so as to prevent future, whatever it is, whether in the private sector, it is still Nigeria's money that are being utilized. And
scarce foreign exchange. People
who have no business to be in Dubai ought not to have taken advantage of the opening. If we have the opportunity, everybody wants to go to Dubai. Because for us, Dubai is the new England, is the new London, is the new New York for us, which is even closer to us as a country. But should all of these people have been there? It's simply embarrassing for Nigeria, and it is an embarrassment to Mr. President himself, which warrants that the office of Mr. President has to start explaining. The embarrassment ought not to have, been brought upon Mr. President.
What was the control like when you were the Minister of Communications? When there are foreign conferences, foreign meetings, where are the gatekeepers?
At that time, the President's office, takes control. For instance, Mr. President had important meetings outside Nigeria, where I was supposed to be, part of it by virtue of my office. But I was not penciled down, and I simply didn't miss it. But this time around, I think, again, because of what we call the Nigerian factor, you agree with me that when we talk of Nigerian factor, it is about corruption, it is about compromises, it is about cutting corners.
Absolutely.
It is about all the negative things, and people simply take advantage of it. So I think that for us to be able to learn lessons from this, there will be need for the office of the Secretary to the government and the head of service to do some investigation to find out why we had such a big, team going in the name of climate change when many of them have no business to be there.
Talking of the Nigerian factor and cutting corners, we seem to always have that tendency to take advantage of every situation. It's in our
Maybe it's
DNA.
in our DNA.
A lot of people will think straight, oh, it's coming up an opportunity when there's a visa ban, just present yourself as going for the summit, and they may not deny you visa.
Well, it happened. Like they are taking advantage, opportunism.
How do we begin to put a handle on this? Because these are part of why the visa ban came in the first place. We're cutting corners and that, characterizing the Nigeria.
I think,
sometimes when I travel,
yes.
I feel the embarrassment when they see the green passport. I'm giving extra scrutiny. Hello, sir, kindly step aside. They begin to ask you extra questions. Other African nationals walk through. So how do we begin to deal with this?
Well, now that the embarrassment has happened, because the opposition, the political opposition has taken advantage to lambast our party and our government. There's need for us, in order to prevent future reoccurrence, there's need for government to take a closer look and ask questions so that people who ought not to have taken advantage should be sanctioned. It is very important. If you don't do that, there will continue to be international engagements. A lot of people will continue to take advantage.
Okay, fair enough from you. Food for thought, and we hope they will take this advice and plug the loopholes. You mentioned the opposition, and some people are already saying perhaps your party APC is inching towards one-party state.
Are we the ones forcing?
Have you not heard the...
Well, a lot of people make careless statements. It doesn't, that does not mean one should be concerned when these statements are being made. We are still in a democracy. Elections have been held. Everybody had the opportunity of campaigning. But the ultimate choice belongs to the people. No, except if you have a situation where anybody comes out to say that he was forced to vote for APC in elections. And in any case, even if that happens, the courts are there. So, but people just make careless statements to blackmail, knowing fully well that nobody will care to make an investigation. People just believe in all of this blackmail, and then perhaps they hide under such blackmail to cover up their weakness, political and electoral weaknesses. And
perhaps they are guided by the fact that a lot of opposition members are crossing over to the ruling party. Maybe it's down to the nature of politicians we have. Willingly, you said in Anambra State, for instance, Senator Ifeanyi Uba and Senator Uche Ekwunife will officially welcome the APC. And these are heavyweights. So when that movement continues, people are tempted to begin to
Who do you blame? Who do you blame?
I mean,
could such high-level people have been coerced to abandon their erstwhile political parties and come to APC? No. Willingly, they decide to change camp, and they have a constitutional right to, their choices.
Now, we also saw it during PDP. We saw movements at the height of PDP's rule when they were saying we will be in power for 60 years. We saw a chairman of APP or the AMPP.
Abandoning their flock.
Yes, getting appointment first and now shifting ground. Now, is the other one is also weaving through. Is that the way democracy should be?
Well, it shouldn't be. But again, you see, free will. In any situation where there is free will, you might say the people are greedy. You might say they don't want to play the role that an opposition will play. And they are always, running. It's a negative thing in our politics, but it is not in the politics, it is in the people. You know, the matter is not in our stars. Nigerians are simply acquisitive. They are simply greedy for power, for position, for money. People do not want to wait for their time. They rather would abandon ship as quickly as possible because they cannot wait for 4 years without getting filthy lucre. It's simply that problem. So that, I mean, a lot of people, for instance, will talk of our, the federal system is expensive, is this and that. But which system is not expensive?
At least cabinet, not parliamentary, not as expensive.
You see,
the ministers are members of the
in Nigeria,
parliament.
If you bring about parliamentary system, no government will last for 2 years in this country.
Because you need a coalition to
because
win a majority.
anytime there is a vote of no confidence in parliament, the government is gone. But as a serious country in their need, we need business-like governance. We need chief executives who have all the power and the stability in governance, who will be able to say, look, this is my manifesto for 4 years, I'll be able to achieve this after 6 months, and this and that.
That was exactly the idea, the philosophy behind the shift in the First Republic, from parliamentary to presidential in 1979, Second Republic. The idea and philosophy was that we need, after the Civil War, we need a strong president who wield executive powers. But some are saying that strong president has become too powerful. They describe the Nigerian president as the most powerful in the world.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Nigerian president is not, it's not about all the power. It's about responsibilities. And I mean, if people are talking of a Nigerian president being powerful, what of the state governors? Some people would be asking us for, restructuring, that you should add more power for governors who already are strangulating the local government system, who are making it impossible for local government system, to operate. I mean, we don't talk about that. So I don't see, the extra powers. I mean, Tinubu has been in power for 6 months now. What has he done extraordinarily to show that he's the all-powerful person?
Okay, now, let's look at what is happening in Ondo State, for instance, where there are some crises, and they have to run to the villa, the president chairing a meeting. Is it not a local Ondo thing that could be settled? Well, is it not because of that powerful president that you must get to the villa to see the body language?
Remember that there are no federal citizens who are different from state citizens. Remember also that it is the same citizens who are members of our political party at the local government level, at the state level, that are also relevant at the national level. A president cannot be president if he does not have people in the states to work for him and to campaign for him and all of that. And, unfortunately, the governor in Ondo State is not available for reasons of sickness and all of that. And there's always, in Yoruba, we have this adage, Agba ki wa loja, kuri omo titun wo. Wherever you have an elder in the marketplace, certainly, there will be law and order. There will be orderliness, there will be stability. So, and for the purpose of our political party, the leader of our party is Mr. President. So, if people find it difficult to reconcile themselves because everybody is part of the problem there, you certainly look for somebody who would have the persuasive, powers, to bring it. Unfortunately, it has worked very well.
And in Rivers State, when an attempt was made by the State Assembly, a PDP state, to impeach the governor, it was a presidential intervention that put an end to that. So you can feel the big president with the wide powers.
Yes. I mean, he is the father of all, and he's respected across board. And I'm happy that you see activists in other political parties still praising Mr. President, who is an APC person. he has
At
certainly
least during
earned
the River
respect.
State political crisis, the chairman of PDP Governors Forum was of praises of the president. Had to visit him in the villa to express appreciation.
Thank God. So we thank God that he's there for everybody.
It's just that these are the issues that throw up this one-party state.
Well, I mean, if Nigerians decide, I know that we will never have one-party state. The only thing is, let Nigerians have peace. If you lose an election in a particular election, please play the role of an opposition. We need opposition.
Absolutely.
We need people to say something different from what the general
alternative thinking.
Yeah, there must be, because it is often said that in every nonsense there's some sense. You know, so you need to gauge. You need somebody to be calling you back and say no, so that you don't just think that. I mean, it's just like when you are driving. If there are no bombs on the way, the probability is that you continue to speed and perhaps,
crash somewhere.
So those bombs represent opposition in political parties and in governance. So for me, and I'm happy that nobody's encouraging the evolution of a one-party system in this country.
Okay, let's go on a break. Perhaps when we come back, we'll start from the implications of a party growing so big and all that. We'll take a look at it and other governance issues. Do stay with us.
When the issues are critical, germane to Nigeria's democratic process,
politicians can only be seen maybe on television by judges. They should not intermingle, because once you intermingle, then you destroy the systems.
When the personalities are big, important to national discourse.
When you reach certain stage in power and you demonstrate arrogance to the extreme, there's no other thing that will happen to you other than to fall.
When the developments are seemingly complex, confounding like a 1,000-piece jigsaw, that's when we require bold, sound, and analytical minds to help put the pieces together. Jigsaw with Benga Arileba, now showing Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. on AIT. Jigsaw, demystifying the issues.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Adebayo Shitu, a lawyer, politician, and former Minister of Communications, has been with me evaluating the state of the Nigerian nation, the governance challenges and solutions. On the second segment, we'll dwell more on solutions. Thank you so much for remaining with us. Let's just finish the issue of the party. Becoming so big and perhaps unwieldy, the tendency, as it happened with the PDP, is that there could be that possibility of internal implosion. When a party grows too big, then disagreements within. The opposition now comes from within the party and not from outside, and that may lead to its downfall.
Well, no, because these are human contraptions. Political parties are human contraptions. You don't expect 100% perfection. To that extent, one would just appeal to the management of our political parties, not just of APC alone, that they should really be democratic, they should avoid impositions, because one of the greatest problems of political parties is preventing primary elections to hold. These, have very negative effect usually on the stability and sustainability of political parties. And then we should have inclusivity in the running of the party, not only at the national level, but also at the state level and the local level. Over time, we have found ourselves in situations when in the states, governors will refuse members to have free and fair primary elections for, emergence of candidates for local government, councillorship, for chairman, for House of Assembly, House of Rep. I mean, they would rather, in Yoruba language, they will say, Enitafeloni. This is the one we want to use. In a situation where one man is the one who dictates, that cannot be a democracy. And I, would particularly say of my party that we pride ourselves as being the progressives, arm of the Nigerian polity. We must continue to guide that position to ensure that questions are not being asked to challenge our, in this of being progressive. We should, remind ourselves at all times that we must not only be progressives by way of mouth, but by action. This is very important so that we always distinguish ourselves from among, Nigeria's political parties, And so the issue of primary election, free and fair primary election, should be a sine qua non if we must remain
I hope
relevant.
Good admonition from you, but the big gladiators, I hope they will resist the temptation.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's saying
There are always
this is the one we
consequences.
want, trying to impose their
There
will
are
on the
always
people. That's where the
consequences.
problem
It happened in Oyo State in 2019, and consequence of it was that we lost the election because people who have been frustrated out of their desire to contest for one thing or the other will always say, look, if you deny me undemocratically, I will rather go and work for the opposition to teach you a lesson. So we must always remember that whatever we do wrong would certainly have consequences. So for me, I love APC so much, and I would use this opportunity to remind us that as progressives, we must remain progressives in allowing full democratic practices to prevail in the evolution of candidates for councillorship, for chairmanship, for House of Assembly, House of Rep, and all of that. We must learn lessons from our past experiences where consequences led us to lose elections, in the past. So once our leaders remind themselves of this at all times, this party APC will continue to grow from strength to strength.
Now, let's look at our local government system. Just last week, the Senate, the National Assembly, talked about punitive sanctions for governors who always fester on local government funds. I recall in the past, there was this court case during the Buhari administration. The Governors Forum went to court when the president issued an executive order directing the Attorney General to cause the funds to be withheld. The court said, no, you don't have that right. And so it appears that it is a case of we are helpless as far as the governors and access to local government funds.
Well, the help would certainly come from the National Assembly. If the National Assembly would appreciate their responsibility and their position as rescuers, they have a duty. Because the Constitution of Nigeria is very clear. It is clear that there must be a three-tier government: the federal, the state, and the local government. How would state governors feel if the way they treat local governments, the federal government decides to treat them similarly, to withhold their funds and be the ones to dictate how much of the funds they should have and how much they would not have? What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So, and if governors refuse to do what is right to advance democracy to the grassroots, I think the National Assembly should come to the rescue of local government. Everybody
By
in
way
the
of
National Assembly,
amending the law.
perhaps amending the law to enforce that. My fear, however, is that if you look at the National Assembly, they all come from the various states and from local government. The probability is that most members of the National Assembly got their ticket through the generosity, quote and unquote, of governors who are believed to be party leaders and who determine who gets ticket and who does not get ticket. So I don't know how they will get
wriggle out of this quagmire, as it were.
But if they would consider their oath of office as people who are elected and who are sworn to protect and advocate the full implementation of the guidelines in the Nigerian constitution, they can save Nigeria and they can save the local government system.
That's the National Assembly showing courage. A lot of people saying maybe it may not even have courage to do such a thing. Even people point out the influence that the executive wields on this 10th National Assembly, saying, is it perhaps higher than what we saw with the National Assembly? They point out the president's presentation of the 2024 budget estimates, where instead of the national anthem, what the military band was rendering was, on your mandate, we stand. And they said for the National Assembly members to also sing along, it erodes their independence. And
it's a pity that we had an army band, going to that. I mean, we must clearly be able to define, partisanship from governmental, operations. And I mean, it was the army band. I mean, they had no business really getting involved in our, partisanship and all of that, But I mean, the National Assembly is there for 4 years. They have a duty to Nigerians, knowing fully well that Nigerians will continue to call the shots. Let us try and be realistic. Let us try and not give Mr. President the impression that he's a perfect human being. Because he himself knows that he is not perfect. He would require us to be reminding him of, whatever would bring about national transformation devoid of partisanship. This is very, very important. But I think that what happened can be said to be a moment of,
that could be corrected.
A moment of joy, a moment of, once in a while, even in serious atmosphere, you still have some, human angle of it and so on. And I think the National Assembly must try to do better than the National Assembly in all indices of legislative activism.
Okay, we'll see how they will fare. Within that budget, there was more than ₹500 billion naira proposal for social investment program. It's big. The same way Buhari also spent even more when he was in office. But this is for 1 year. So if he continues, I think Buhari was spending almost 500 billion per annum, the same ₹500 billion as it were. Is it what will lift 133 million Nigerians and more out of poverty? Is that the right way, the way they have structured it? Share this money, do this impart skills, empower and all that. Is that the right method?
That is a mixed answer. For one, there are so many people out there whose business capital is not more than 5,000. In the market,
the hawkers on the streets
and so on. People selling pure water. More often than not, to even get that 5,000 to start pure water business could be very challenging. So in a way, and for them to, instead of that 5,000 to get, 25,000, goes a long way, particularly to rural folks. That is one. Number two, the other challenge is how many so-called poor and marginalized people will these monies get to? I want to, in particular, mention specially what is happening in Borno State. Borno is exceptionally good when you think of, really coming to the aid of the poor. There's no other state like Borno in this country, in the extent of people who get impacted positively.
What's the practice in Borno?
The practice in Borno, you find in this day, you find about 10,000 people. You see them physically being given 5,000, being given, rice and so on. You see it physically. In many other places, you just hear that so much money has been distributed. You don't see who to who, and so on. And that, where there's no transparency, room is given for corruption, for pilfering, and all of that. So that is one. But if I would have my way, what we require most in this country is for people to have access to free education at all levels. I think a lot of this money needs to be transferred to the education budget to ensure people have access. I am sorry, I have to make mention of this, for purpose of explanation. Most of these bandits in the bush, in the forest, would not be bandits if they had opportunity of education. Nobody who is educated would prefer to go and live in the bush and be a criminal or a bandit. And the late Chief Obafemi Awolowo, our late political leader, once said, if you refuse to educate the children of the poor, they would ensure that your own children cannot sleep with their two eyes closed.
Is it not what is happening currently?
This is exactly what is happening.
Nigeria?
So I would rather prefer that government should reprioritize in the area of, bringing about poverty. If education is made free, there's nobody in this country
at all levels, you said, up to tertiary?
Up to tertiary level. We spend
that
so
would
much.
Be huge.
It will be, but we are spending money on so many irrelevant things.
Quite correct.
There are so many irrelevant things that can be cut off. Let us rechannel our resources to provide the education. If education is free, no poor person would not benefit.
You just struck a chord with me when you raised this issue of education and the fact that it should be free, because I'm a strong advocate of that. Education is a leveler.
Yeah, it's a great leveler.
It is the best tool you can use to achieve equality.
Exactly, in society.
A child from a very poor background, once they attend university, is at the same stage with the son of a multi-millionaire.
That is it. That is it. So, we must learn from history. Let me say this. Again, I'm saying it with all due respect to other tribes. Because we had an Awolowo who provided education at all levels free. Today, the Southwest, with all sense of humility, is in the forefront, is in an advanced stage of societal development in the sense that the level that people are able to socialize, they are able to mix, are able to provide jobs and so on. I'm sorry, I must apologize. If you get to Lagos, which is the biggest economy, the largest economy, about 90% of security men are not Yorubas. About 90% of Okada riders are not from Southwest.
Some people are even from Benin Republic.
I am just trying to, show the advantage that free education has brought to the people of the South.
All thanks to the foundation laid
by Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Why can't we proceed with this, continue with this now on the national level? So that whether one comes from Karanamoda, one comes from B, one comes from wherever you come from, the government must educate you. And it must be the federal government. Must educate you. If it is only education that we're able to provide, all these poor women in the village who cannot educate their own children, all these orphan children who do not have anybody to sponsor their education, would sigh a lot of relief. They know that there's a future for them and for their families.
It was the late Nelson Mandela that said, to educate a man is to liberate the man.
That is it.
We can't
for me,
get tired of emphasizing.
Yes, for me, we must reprioritize
for education as a priority.
Education as a priority. And of course, bigger level to health. We must take the two together.
Education and health.
Education and health, because these are the basic needs for people to become human beings in real terms. It's not enough for people to just exist as human beings. More importantly is for them to live, to be conscious that they are human beings, to be conscious that they are being equipped intellectually and professionally, and to have hope and faith in a future which is certain to come.
Okay, you're striking another chord in me, but let's, because I advocate for all these issues, let's welcome some views or perhaps questions from outside the studio and from our X feed. The address is on the screen. We have this question from Tom Egbele, and he says, great to see your guest. As the Minister of Communications, he asks, why did you not act to solve the problem of data or data bundle? Many things we thought he will act on to rein in the network providers in. In a nutshell, you should kindly speak on your past stewardship.
Well,
You know, once a public officer is always there, there's always a time. You keep explaining and explaining.
The unfortunate thing is we won't have enough time to really...
In a nutshell.
But when you talk of data and so on, I will give a simple example. A lot of people expect that, or forget that these companies engaged in telecommunications, they are private sector players. They are in business. Before they came, before we invited them to come and establish telecom companies, we knew the type of telephones we were using. And we knew that less than 0.001% of Nigerians had access to telephone facility. Because it didn't work, and because there was a new technology in town, we invited people to come. They paid heavily, billions of naira, to get licenses. Just the paper license haven't paid. They installed their masts all over the place. Haven't installed their masts, they also, because government could not provide electricity for them, they also had to buy 100 megawatts generators
For each base station.
And fuel it on a daily basis. And also, we could not also provide security. They also had to engage security personnel. And how much if we send text message, even up to today, since that time till today,
There'll be no increase.
it is still 4 naira. If you go to Benin Republic there,
One will say, one may argue that
let
having,
me deliver.
Just to add to what you have
Yes.
said, that having made these investments over time, perhaps once at a go, over the years you continue to reap, and so there may be that need to suddenly increase tariff may not be there.
Let me tell you, just compare. Benin is our next door neighbor. What we pay 4 naira for in Nigeria, in Benin Republic is 50 naira.
Per SMS?
Yes. In Algeria, where I travel to sometime, it is 150 naira. Now, short of making these things free, because if you say they have bought these equipments and so on, what of maintenance of it? What of replacements? What of fueling and all of that? Short of making it completely free, if you insist that they should make it free, if their businesses become, unprofitable, of course they will pack up and leave the country. If they leave the country, what is it? Is it an advantage for Nigerians or a disadvantage? So we must face the reality. You have said it. In the last 20 years, it has still been this. What else in this country remains the same in terms of prices?
That was what was promised. I remember the executive vice chairman of NCC Ndukwe promising us then, explaining the high tariff, saying over time with massive investment with competition, it will drive the traffic tariff down. And that is what has happened.
Ndukwe is now the chairman of MTN. He dare not do it, except if he wants MTN to pack up. So the reality is that we invite these people to come and operate in Nigeria so that they can make profit. And we must allow them to have profit insofar as they are providing the services that we require from them. So it is not for me. I didn't have the power to say that you must reduce from 4 naira. Would I say to 2 naira or 1 naira?
But like you hinted, you had the power to protect the consumer.
Of course, by ensuring that they provide quality service. And then Nigeria was making a lot of money. Up to today, if you know how much telecom companies are paying as, licensing fee and as profit, taxes and all of that. If you are doing roads, you are doing so much thing. More than 10% of our incomes now are generated through telecom. So part of the 4 naira we are paying comes back to government. So
that's very interesting. We'll see how that sector fares. New technologies coming. We don't have time now. 5G and all that. Again, big licensing fees. But we'll see how it plays out in the long term. We have to thank you so much for joining us today. But just one quick question. Is there anything you regret doing or not doing as
Oh, yeah, certainly there were a number of things I regretted. There were about 3 issues that I, tried to do for Nigeria, which were frustrated.
Quickly, what are these?
For instance, I wanted to establish for Nigeria an ICT university.
We have it in Rwanda.
In the name of government. It was frustrated. And government
By
said,
who?
Well, by some of my colleagues in the Federal Executive Council, and they said it was an overambitious project. There was also, our satellite,
NICOMSAT, yeah.
What we have in the past almost 10 years, we have only 1 satellite in orbit. So Nigerian entities, Nigerian companies, Nigerian universities, Nigerian ministries are not patronizing the NICOMSAT because it does not have a spare satellite. I negotiated for 2 extra satellites in China, and on credit for 525 million or thereabout. And again, it was frustrated. They said that.
And the last one.
And again, we had, one other, thing about, I've forgotten the title of the project to get every part of the country to assist telecom companies that in such a way that they don't have to provide everything they would require for access. Again,
It didn't say true. Perhaps